Hey everybody, this is John with the Unpaid Gamers, also known as posthumanguy. You've heard me on podcasts before, maybe, probably not. I don't really broadcast on YouTube very much previously, but we're going through a lot of changes with the way we deliver content now. So just kind of give everybody a heads up on that. Unpaidgamers.com is the domain, and it would basically redirect you to a website that would in turn send you to YouTube, Twitter, all of our things, as well as written content. We're kind of getting away from that. The past year or two, we've really kind of focused on more live coverage like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media platforms, getting with the times, basically. So now with the big focus on YouTube, we're kind of moving in that direction a little bit. So we will just end up redirecting the unpaidgamers.com directly to the YouTube channel, so that'll be an easy way to find that. And then I'm just kind of winging it from there. So in addition to all those changes, so it may take everyone a bit to kind of find us and make it to our channel. Once you're there, of course, you can subscribe or check accordingly, however you want to do it. So in addition to all that, for those who know of Juice Man and his gaming roundtable, he is joining our team. So his regular roundtable discussions or videos will be posted on our Unpaid Gamers YouTube channel, so that's where you can find him, giving us more content and just kind of joining forces and seeing how things work out. So my personal involvement, for those who don't know me, old school gamer. I've played since Commodore 64. I've had home consoles and PCs ever since, so I've been around a few years, played a lot of games, mostly everything that's been out. Not much of an exaggeration there. Of course, there's some things I haven't played, but definitely had my fair share of experience and been playing for a long, long time. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as what we're doing today, those regular updates. One thing I would like to talk about is one of the more negative trends that I see in the gaming industry today, and that's just the toxicity of the community in general. It's really sad to see the monetization of YouTube channels seemingly kind of taking over and steering the content. Everything's about cash grabs or shock value, or here's these cheats or exploits, or this is what's terrible about this game, this is just speculation. And I don't really blame people for trying to create a niche product, trying to make a living at what is essentially the new version of journalism. Let's face it, YouTube's taken over. YouTube was down just a few months ago, and it really didn't realize how much you use YouTube in a daily fashion. At least me, just going on the internet, looking up anything. I mean, whether I'm playing a song or looking up a video about something, checking out a gameplay video, I mostly use YouTube for 90% of that type of stuff. So again, I don't really blame people for trying to go this route. The problem with it, though, is because of that, everyone has a voice, everyone has a channel, like me, I guess, now. But things get so loud and things get so negative and arguments get so out of hand, and it's not really, it really kind of ruins what the gaming industry is supposed to be about, in my opinion. I remember when games were fun. Of course, we all tried to find exploits in games. I mean, since the very first Easter egg in Adventure for the Atari. Um, but we were also about enjoying the game too. There wasn't, for one, there wasn't as many games out there. You bought a game and you played it for 6 months or however long until you could afford a new one, or you got a new one for a birthday or Christmas, or it just came out. I mean, there wasn't as much being released as there is now. And now there's so much saturation in content. I feel like a lot of things get taken for granted. I feel like a lot of these industries' work doesn't really get recognized the way it should. You know, and the reason I bring this up is they all kind of play into each other. So, when there's so much content out there, it's easy just to dismiss anything and to not, if it doesn't impress you within the first 2 minutes, then it's garbage. Or, you know what I mean? If it doesn't have AAA graphics or, big multi-million dollar budgets, then it's terrible. And it's really a shame. You see these developers putting their heart and soul into something for years and release it, and it just gets crapped on. I mean, now I'm not saying that the work shouldn't be held to standards, and you can't just put out junk and expect people to buy it. I'm not saying that at all. It's just there's games out there that are really good games that have gotten bad raps, and I really wanted to talk about this mainly because of all this stuff about Fallout 76 coming out and the terrible backlash that it's received, that I feel is unwarranted. I know Juice Man posted a video about this, and so I don't really want to make it all about that. And just this channel start out being nothing but Fallout talk, but it really is an important topic though at this time. No Man's Sky got the same issue. Mass Effect, Andromeda, same problem. Now this. Those are just off the top of my head the three more recent examples of this, and there was really nothing wrong with any of those games that I played. They're all a little bit different scenarios, sure. No Man's Sky definitely had an issue with marketing. I feel they misrepresented the game, and it burnt a lot of people. And I don't really get so defensive about that game and seeing some of that backlash. I think out of any of those three, I think that's the one that probably deserved at least some of that. Having said that, though, it really wasn't a bad game. I mean, it brought a lot of things to the table. I felt it got a little boring to me after a while, especially the launch version mainly. Did a lot of improvements and really made it what people wanted it to be in the first place, which is great. That's awesome. So just speaking of the launch product, it definitely was different than what they said it was going to be. In my opinion, it was a letdown. Everybody bought it, so we're all in this thing together. Unless you pull some trickery or something, you can't really return those games once you buy them. So you kind of stuck with what you have. So I decided to play No Man's Sky and just really kind of see what I could get out of it. And I played it for a couple months. It was fine. It wasn't terrible. Definitely wasn't terrible. The way they made the procedural universe work, it was definitely a technical achievement. Worth mentioning or experiencing. Just to, there was really no game that did it to that scale. I think. I know there were a few lower budget titles that kind of did some of that stuff, but as far as mainstream, land to sky, nearly infinite universe, that's probably the first time that most people had experienced anything like that. So there was definitely something there to enjoy, I think. The other two examples that I gave, Mass Effect Andromeda, definitely got a bad rap. There's a lot of opinions on what happened there, why it failed, but from the get-go, it was received mediocre reviews, terrible fan reaction, for no reason. I mean, it had bugs for sure, but who cares? Every game has bugs. I mean, there wasn't anything that seemed to be game breaking, at least for the majority of players. I think a lot of people were upset that it wasn't a continuation of the original series. And, I had my own feelings on that too. They announced it. I really wanted to see that Shepard story continue, I guess. But it's really best that it didn't. It's really just a statement to the success of the original trilogy. Playing 1 through 3 straight was an amazing experience that if anybody hasn't played, I still recommend them going back and playing through. Being able to carry your game save from one entry to the next was amazing. It really gave the decisions you made in that game weight. There were things, when I set out to play it, I played the first and the second one, but when the third one came out, I started from the beginning, and it took me like 6 months to do. But I just started from one and just played through all three, and my only rules were I wasn't after rushing through the experience. I was, just playing it like I would play anything, or leisurely play, take my time, do side missions, do all that. And my other rule was if anything happened that I didn't like, I wouldn't go back and change it. I would just let it go and just accept what happened as the reality. And it was truly one of the best gameplay experiences I've ever had. There was a main character that died at the end of the second one, and it was my favorite character. So going to the third one, it almost ruined me because I didn't have my favorite guy. I knew he wasn't going to be with me in the third game, but it made that event and choices that I made have a lot more weight by doing that. So, kind of getting off topic, but it really made me appreciate that series, and to date is one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. So when I found out it wasn't continuing that Mass Effect Andromeda, it was definitely a letdown, and I was thinking, well, I don't know about that, but we'll see, I guess. So, of course, as things move closer, marketing takes its toll, and I get excited about it, and I pre-order it, and it comes out, and by then, I guess I already had time to really kind of digest that it wasn't going to be a continuation of the Shepard story, or any of the characters from that universe, really. And so I just started from scratch. And I mean, I loved that game from beginning to end. Again, I took my time with it, made the choices I made, did the side missions, and the whole time everybody was hating it. And well, not everybody, but the vocal parts of the gaming community just didn't seem to stand for it, which is really a shame because it was such a great game. And I'm not saying everybody has to like everything. Not all games are created equal. Not all games are made for everyone, and that's okay. The problem is like so many things in this country lately, when you don't like something, just making it so loud and so overshadowing of anything else in that community or area, to where you drowned out anything positive. It's almost like the people that don't like the game, they really don't want anybody else to like it either. I still continue to do it for some reason, but I'll go to these gaming forums and stuff because I really, I used to like going in there reading stuff about the game, what other people found in certain games, things like that. But anymore, it's just like a room of hate and disgust for most of these games. I mean, it seems like nobody likes anything. And if you say you like something, then you're just blindly defending it, or you're doing the industry a disservice by supporting some of these developers and letting them get by with stuff. I certainly don't mind when people voice their opinions negatively or go into a forum and say this game sucks. That's fine. But then move on. You gave your opinion, just go on and play whatever else you want. Go to those forums. But don't hang around in the same forums and drown out everybody else who's trying to talk about the game they like. It really, that's in my definition when I like to call the gaming community toxic, those aspects of it. When you don't let others enjoy the games that you hate, that to me is, it's bad for everyone. And, it continues to drown out everything else, and in turn, in many cases, it really creates problems for the developers. I mean, that's really what happened with Mass Effect. They were planning a new trilogy. They were playing DLC. All of the unwarranted backlash and issues just became so loud and so terrible that it really caused all those plans to just go out the window. So now nobody has any more Mass Effect. At least in that form. I think they said it's not dead, but I mean, who knows when we'll ever see it. And it's a very fine line, because there is something to say about a developer releasing a terrible game, the gaming community being vocal about it, and making the developers respond to it. One case of that is the Star Wars Battlefront 2 when it came out, and the microtransactions that everyone hated. Everyone was really vocal about that, kind of focused their energy and directed it towards the developers, and, DICE kind of took a step back and pulled them from the game, retooled things, and probably made the experience a lot better. I kind of have some mixed feelings about that, but that's way more okay than just continuing to trash a game because you don't like it. I mean, in the latest example, the Fallout 76, yet again, I feel that's what's happened, is this game came out. Everybody, for the most part, loves Bethesda games. They love their series. Fallout has a big fan base and following. Fallout 76 comes out. It's not really what everybody expects. It certainly does have issues, but it's not at all a terrible game, and it is received nothing but hate and negativity and backlash, and you can't hardly go on Facebook or forums and even say you like the game without getting a ton of responses to your statement, just trashing the game and trashing you for supporting the developer. Just because you like it. I mean, that should be okay. You should be able to like what you like. You should be able to like what you like. You should be able to dislike this. But just don't force your opinion either way on other people. That's terrible. Fallout 76 specifically, the thing about that is there's design choices that Bethesda made, and good or bad, it's still design choices they made and chose to implement. So this is the game we have. It's not really what a lot of people were expecting, but is that necessarily the problem of Bethesda? Because honestly, I watched the press conference live. I looked at the news coverage like as preceding the release. Like I kind of knew what the game was going to be. It did when I actually seen the gameplay. It didn't really surprise me. Yet everybody else seemingly, I know not everybody else, but a large volume of the industry just had a heart attack about it and was like, "Oh, what is this? This is not Fallout. This is not what we were expecting." And I mean, in the case of No Man's Sky, the marketing and what they showed kind of led people to believe that. But in this case, it seems like Bethesda really just kind of told everybody what it was going to be. So is that really their fault? Should a certain percentage of these gamers that are upset just kind of done better homework? Would that have fixed things? I don't know, I guess. That seems to be some of the case for me. Whenever I go to buy a game, unless it's something that I just know I want to give a shot either way, that does happen. And mostly that's for franchises or just something that is a really cool concept that just really impresses me and I want to give it a try no matter what. Typically, I'll wait till it comes out. Not really listen to reviews or read reviews because I really don't care what other people have to say. Most of that stuff's so subjective. I could like something, think it's amazing. You could think it's garbage. So I really just kind of go after, what am I paying for? What kind of features are in the game? What does this game do? I watch some gameplay. I do my homework. And for the most part, I'm never really disappointed. I kind of just buy stuff I think I'll be into. And if not, then, sometimes we make that bad choice. And that really goes for anything in life. Sometimes you just get a product you don't like. It's not for you. But it's not really the developer's or the manufacturer's fault. Sometimes, if it falls apart or it's a crappy game or whatever, that's a problem, of course. But if you just don't like it, whose fault's that? And I really think that's the issue with Fallout 76. I know there were some technical issues at launch. I can't really comment on that because I didn't play it from day one. By the time I played it, they released the performance patch. And, my experience with it, at least since after that, on the PS4, has been pretty positive. I don't really have too many issues. I log in and it kind of stutters for a minute and then it goes on. I haven't really been kicked out so far. I haven't had any kind of game-breaking glitches. At most, maybe a long loading screen or some stutters, something like that. But other than that, it's pretty much the game that I heard about and watched videos of and knew I was getting into. It's definitely not for everybody. It's slow. You kind of have to be okay with just exploring the world, scavenging, surviving, dealing with enemies as they spawn in, and then other than that, just kind of doing all that with your friends or the other players. The biggest problem that I see with it is the way the PvP works. So for those who don't know anything, basically the whole game is PvP or PvE all everywhere. At any point, somebody can just come up and attack you. But what they've done is it does little to no damage once they start attacking you. And then if you fire back, that's when the PvP system engages and you do real damage to each other. So it kind of... that's something, I guess. The problem is they can still, of course, technically kill you if they were just persistent enough and followed you around. Which I've seen a couple jerks do that. Now, if you do kill a player that way without them firing back at you, you are labeled as a murderer. And you show up on everybody's map as a murderer. And then anybody can go kill you and you don't really get any penalty for doing so. And I think there's some specifics as far as if you murder somebody and being a murderer, losing some caps or like some bounty being drawn out or something from your, your wallet or whatever. I don't really know because I haven't done it, but I don't really like that system, to be honest. There is a setting that they added that it's almost like a passive mode, but basically all it does is prevents you from attacking other players. So why that's important is, say somebody's coming and attacking you, not really leaving you alone, you get attacked by enemies, you're swinging a bat or shooting or whatever, and you accidentally shoot this other player too, it would then in turn start the PvP system. But with this setting on, you cannot attack other players, period, so it would never really engage, and it really, that actually helped me in one scenario I had, because I had a another player that was kind of being a jerk and he just wanted to hit me with a bat or start shooting, and it wasn't really killing me, but it was definitely doing damage over time. And I was just trying to do my own thing, and he wanted to follow me, and then of course I got attacked by some rats, and he was like trying to squat down in front of him and like, I guess, basically get a hit from me, so the PvP would engage and he could then kill me because he was way higher level than me. But because I had that setting turned on, it just never happened. He eventually went on his own way, and what was a few minutes of him trying to kill me, I just did a stim pack and healed myself, and it was not a big deal, but still kind of annoying, really. I could have just left the game world and respawned back in, but you really shouldn't have to do that. And that's kind of the only problem I still see that's a big deal. I seen it as a problem before it came out, just because of the way people play online games, seemingly. Again, not everybody, but so much of the community is about just conquering a game. As soon as it comes out, they're going to be the first to get every weapon, level up the highest, find any exploit they can, and just really make it miserable for the other players that want to do the role-playing aspect, or just enjoy other players. And I've seen that kind of being an issue. So I definitely had concern. When I found out how the PvP system worked, I decided to just give it a try anyway and hope for the best. And it's really not terrible. But what I think the issue is Bethesda kind of relies on the players to police it. So, if you get somebody that murders somebody and then they're out in the world, they're labeled as a murderer. But the problem is if they're like level 50 and you're level 5, and it's not like the game really took off like I'm sure they hoped. So there's not a ton of players in there. So the chances of somebody taking out somebody like that is a lot less. Not saying it's impossible. If everybody came together, I'm sure they could gang up on them and kill them. But I don't think there's enough players playing it, and I just don't think that for that system to work. I don't think that's necessarily a good deal. I think they should either do like Elder Scrolls Online does, to where you have a certain area that's dedicated for PvP, or just give that ability to where if you don't want to be attacked, then they just can't hit you at all. I don't really see the issue with doing something like that. Or just, at the main menu, just have a PvP enabled worlds and then non-PvP worlds, to where, you can just kind of pick the experience you want. I think that would be a better solution, and I don't really know why they haven't done that. So that's kind of my main thing. Other than that, though, it's really, again, just what type of game you want to enjoy. Is this it or is it not? There's videos of, people trashing GameStops because they got the game and then they couldn't return it. When I was out to research the game and buy the game, it was really hard for me to even find videos just showing the gameplay and people playing it for what it is. The only thing I would see would be hate videos on it. Why this game sucks. Why Bethesda sucks. What's terrible about this game. A billion things this game did wrong. Do not buy Fallout 76 is like the subject on half of them. And, I get you don't like it. I get that it's not for everybody. But, I mean, quit trying to spread the hate. It's really my main issue. And it's not just with this game. It's just in general. So many different things. And so much of that toxic gaming community ruins a lot of experiences out there. And maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I just don't like that. Maybe I don't like playing online games like I thought it would. But it definitely seemed to change within the past few years. Even from like the last generation of Xbox 360, PS3, there were certainly players that were trying to exploit things or whatever, but I just remember those experiences being so much better. Just even playing Call of Duty or Battlefield, you didn't have people that one of my, and this is just a personal pet peeve, the no scoping sniper thing drives me nuts. Partially maybe because I'm no good at it, but it seems so cheap. Like, I don't know. If you're in Battlefield and you're playing a sniper, great. Call of Duty, the maps are so small. You can still play sniper, and I think that's really what a lot of those things were in there for, finding holes and kind of using it. And a lot of people hate camping and stuff like that, and I don't really defend that either. But I mean, and if you're playing that role in that class, it's kind of part of the game. What drives me nuts though is running around in a small deathmatch map with a sniper rifle. Like, it's not, like it's just finding a way to exploit the game, because in a more real life scenario, if that was the case, like, you would never run around with a sniper rifle and just try to no scope people in real life. Like, that's not, I know it's not real life. I know it's a game, but hopefully that kind of makes sense. It just seems just a cheap way to get above everyone, or noob tubing. That was a term, and I don't even really know. I guess maybe I'm just an old geezer now, because I don't know if that people really use that anymore. But basically running around with a grenade launcher and just blowing everybody up as soon as you see them. That was kind of another cheap method of doing that. And of course you'd have people that do things like that, and it really got kind of frowned upon. And for the most part, you would just find people playing the game in a way that I felt like it was intended, playing with guns. Seems kind of unusual these days. And progressively over the years, it just became more and more people using sniper rifles, more and more people using grenade launchers, and now it's just nuts, going in some of those games. And it's not that I'm bad at multiplayer and I have sour grapes, because I still do pretty well. I'm just not a fan of that type of play style in some of these games. And I realize that's a preference, so maybe it's not even a big thing. But like Battlefield, I tend to prefer over Call of Duty just because it's a slower paced experience. A lot of people kind of play their specific roles instead of just getting the KD, and it's just a better experience for me. And even then, that should be okay. I'll just play that. I'm not hating on all the people that play Call of Duty, or even do those things that I've talked about. It just seems like a shift to me that wasn't there. The gaming community as a whole is involved, so If there's games that people want to do that and everybody's happy with it, I guess go ahead. You know, um, I just won't play those, and that again, that should be okay. But if you're in these games and you're not doing that and you get crapped on for doing it, that's when I see a problem. And I don't know. I guess that's kind of a tangent, but for me, it kind of helps describe what I've seen in the gaming industry over however many years, and the introduction of online multiplayer, and then how that's evolved. And another example to maybe better illustrate my point is Grand Theft Auto Online. When it launched, I don't know, people played it pretty, I guess, how you would expect people to play GTA. But it seemingly morphed into something a little bit different, and partially because of all the things they've introduced. There's stronger weapons, stronger vehicles with weapons. You get in there anymore without passive turned on, and you're getting bombed from the sky. You're getting whatever. It's just so crazy, and it's hard to really even do anything. It drives me nuts. And again, I'm not even really complaining about that. But it just seemed, like, instead of jumping into GTA and occasionally people attacking you and everybody just kind of doing their thing, to some people it's just all about killing everybody else and just being the best. And I don't know, maybe that's what competitive multiplayer's always been about, but it just seems like the way so many people go about playing a lot of these online games does nothing but ruin the experience, when it's not really, well, when I feel it's not necessarily intended to be always a competitive environment. You know what I mean? It's one thing in playing something Call of Duty to where, really the whole objective is to killing people, the other players, and finding the best way to do so. So I can't really hate on people finding out that you could no scope a sniper rifle or using a grenade launcher. But when you move into like GTA and it's just this big open environment, there is a certain aspect that should be okay about battling other players and just kind of using this open sandbox to kill each other. But that's not the only thing to GTA. There's there's lots of things. They do all the business stuff. You can still do all that, but it's really hard to do some of those other activities when you're getting shot at nonstop when you're in there. So I don't know. To me, that kind of ruins some of that experience, and I think part of that responsibility probably does fall on the developers, just to find ways to create experiences to better suit everyone. If that's what you want to be about, just and I really think it's simple in the online gaming world. You just have your servers that are PvP, and then non-PvP could probably eliminate half that stuff. I get why GTA is the way it is. If you're trying to do the gun running activities or trying to export cars, and you're get attacked by other players and that randomness of it. I don't know how you would ever find a way to allow some of it, but just not all the time. So maybe that's the struggle with that one. But again, it really only mention it because to me it just kind of goes along with what I've seen, the change in the gaming industry and gaming community, and it's all about just being the best anymore, and conquering a game and getting the highest kill streak, and getting the highest of every weapon upgrade and just 100% in it, as fast as possible and just ruling everybody else instead of just enjoying the game for what it is. And I don't want to come across like I'm telling people how they should enjoy their products, but it's just what I've seen, the shift, I guess, and to a certain level, I think a lot of that's okay, but it really ruins a lot of other things, in my opinion. Going kind of circling back to some of those specific examples that I gave with Mass Effect and Fallout. Partially not doing your homework, knowing what kind of game you're getting into, and then just because it's not this other stuff that allows you to do some of those things and to conquer it and to just instant gratification, then it's terrible and nobody else should like it either. And Bethesda or BioWare, EA, or whatever should be punished for even making it. Like that's pretty silly, and that's definitely what I consider to be toxic. So, long-winded conversation. I know a lot of those things can really be taken out of context, and unless you really kind of dive into it and analyze it, you can have a rebuttal to a lot of the things that I've said isolated. But I don't know. That's just my take, I guess. I really think what I would like to see is for people just to relax. Don't get so bent out of shape over stuff. If the game's not for you, just move on and play something else. If it's a legitimate issue, I would like to see the developers pay attention and make corrections. I feel like Fallout 76 is a platform game. I feel like I'm hoping it's going to be kind of more like a live service type of experience, and they continue to update it in ways that, like, say, No Man's Sky did. Just make it, expand on some of the things that they wanted to implement, didn't have time to implement things based on customer feedback. Just continue to evolve it, make it something better, and hopefully people will be a little bit more receptive to it. But, again, just if it's not something you're into, by all means, voice your opinion, make your YouTube video, bitch about it, say what you don't like about it, but then just move on. Spend your time playing something you like instead of trying to ruin it for everyone else. And I'm not saying everybody who makes hate videos is doing a disservice either. There is something to say about warning your fellow gamers or people it's kind of the same thing of, oh, you played that game, what'd you think about it? Oh, well, don't buy that, man. That game sucks. Like that. I mean, that's okay, I guess. By all means, tell gamers you don't like what you don't. Have your recommendations, but just don't try to show up on everybody else's channel who likes it and tear it down. It's one thing in getting discussions about it. It's another, just again, not letting people discuss a game or talk positive without trying to poison that. I used to like forums for the fact of you could go there, and especially with open world type of things, and you and other players could talk about that we're enjoying the game too, what you came across, what this surprise happened, I wasn't expecting this, this is what I found here. And it used to be more about just discussions of that game, and to allowing the gamers that are into it to interact, and almost like its own community is really what I thought. And it's so hard to do that now because somebody posts something they found, and then somebody goes in there and says, well, that's a terrible game anyway, you shouldn't be playing it. And then a lot of people ignore that stuff and continue talking, but then somebody, of course, responds back, and has the opposite stance, and then it turns into this big argument and just ruins the topic because, you can't. It has nothing to do with what it was originally about, and there's just so much of that, and it really gets annoying, and it's a shame. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Long-winded soapbox, but I guess that's why we're here, right? So, this has been the first podcast like this with my thoughts. Look forward to many more. Again, on the channel, you can find Juice Man's Roundtable. I know we'll be doing some just gameplay videos, straight gameplay videos. There'll be more of these type of podcasts, possibly with multiple people. And yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for listening.